I don't know if you're aware of all the circumstances of this case, but the defendant McNeal was convicted of the instant case in 1983, the year before I was elected district attorney. Prior to that, though, about 9 months prior to the instant case in the same apartment complex, there was another aggravated rape. And a man by the name of Ricky Johnson was convicted of that offense. And Ricky served 25, 26 years. And I was approached by the Innocence Project and asked, would one own a guy by the name of Ricky Johnson, who had been serving a life sentence since 1982 for 9 months prior in the same apartment complex. That DNA testing revealed the defendant Ricky Johnson's DNA was excluded as being found in the victim. And when that was submitted into this database, that it was the DNA of this defendant, John McNeal.
We just heard from the district attorney who was laying it out to the Louisiana Commutation Board, laying down the facts of a monster. You see, this monster not only committed aggravated SA of one victim, but he has at least 2 victims. But that's not all. You see, his friend, who was serving time in Angola beside him, was rotting away in prison for 25 years for a crime that he didn't commit, for a crime that he committed. Yet he would sit there and talk to his buddy every day in the yard and say, that's too bad. Too bad you were wrongfully convicted, all the while knowing that he held the key to him getting out. Now, it was ultimately the Innocent Project that freed Ricky from prison, but John is now asking the Commutation Board to let him out and give him a second chance. Have the governor pardon him for his crime. The audacity of it all. Now let's jump into this hearing, hear it out. We'll hear from the victims, we'll hear from the DA, and then I'll unpack it with more details about the wrongful conviction at the end.
Mr. McNeal, you're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 11th Judicial District at Sabine Parish in June 1984. You received a life sentence for an aggravated rape conviction. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. McNeal, why don't you tell us why you've submitted an application to have your sentence commuted, and why do you think you should be granted that request?
Because I'm not that person that I was all them years ago when I came here. And, I always tried to, by me being incarcerated in Angola, I always tried to follow the guidelines and live by the rules and regulations of the prison. And just do the right thing. And I'm a better person right now than I was when I first came in here.
Good. All right. Thank you, sir. Warden Oliver, what can you tell us about Mr. McNeal?
Mr. McNeal served approximately 41 years. He's a Class A trustee. He lives at Camp D, where he works as a janitor and cleaner. I can tell you he was one of the first inmates that I met when I came here almost 23 years ago. So he's been in the same area since then. He's had a total of 32 disciplinary write-ups, the last report being in 2011. He has completed substance abuse, anger management, victim awareness, and letter training. He does have a written letter in his file to the victim. Thinking for a change, sex offender treatment, and his Tiger score is low. He also does have a history of prostate cancer that has, it's treatable. It's been treated. He just goes regularly to the provider for follow-ups.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McNeal, we'd like to hear first from the people that want to speak, and we don't see anybody speaking in support today of your application. So we'll start off with Mr. Don Burkett from the DA's office in Sabine Parish. Mr. Burkett, we'd like to hear from you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Renanza, other members of the board. I don't know if you're aware of all the circumstances of this case, but the defendant McNeal was convicted of the instant case in 1983, the year before I was elected district attorney. Prior to that, though, about 9 months prior to the instant case in the same apartment complex, there was another aggravated rape. And a man by the name of Ricky Johnson was convicted of that offense. And Ricky served 25, 26 years. And I was approached by the Innocence Project and asked, would DNA testing done on a guy by the name of Ricky Johnson, who had been serving a life sentence since 1982 for a rape 9 months prior in the same apartment complex. That DNA testing revealed that the defendant Ricky Johnson's DNA was excluded as being found in the victim. And when that was submitted into this database, it also revealed that it was the DNA of this defendant, John McNeal. So we brought Ricky Johnson back to Sabine Parish. And I looked at both files. One of the problems was that the Manny PD had investigated one rape. The Sabine Parish Sheriff's Office had investigated the other. But when you laid the files out and saw how things went, now there was a gun used in the first one and a knife in this one, but still when you looked at how it went out and all, you could tell the pattern of this crime. And so we released Ricky Johnson. And this is another thing. Ricky Johnson told me he was in the exercise yard with McNeal every day. And Johnson's doing a life sentence for a rape that this inmate McNeal committed. And McNeal's sitting there knowing, and he, he could care less. And so I don't know if you're going to ask him about the other rape, whether he's going to admit to the other rape. I didn't follow through and prosecute him on that one at that time, but there was some witness issues and things involved. And undoubtedly, he's committed not one but two aggravated rapes. And he allowed an innocent man to serve, I think it was 26 years of his life in Angola for something he didn't do. And the facts of the case, and I will let the victim and her family speak to those, but they were horrific what went on. And so I'm opposed to his any commutation of his sentence in the strongest of terms. And I'd be happy to answer any questions any of you have.
Okay, we'll reserve. I don't see any questions at this time, but we may have some shortly. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, sir. Could we hear now from the victim's family? And I'll let you all decide how you want to go. Who wants to go first? So as you speak, just introduce yourself individually. Thank you.
It's the wrong cemetery. I don't consider myself a victim. I'm a survivor. I came from home one night, found this monster hiding in my closet. I never imagined anything this horrific would happen to me. This monster raped me and held a knife to my throat the whole time and told me if I made a sound, he would kill me. What this monster did to me left an emotional and physical pain that I'm still suffering with today. This horrific act traumatizes you. You live with it for the rest of your life. It was years before I could even trust anybody. Years before I could even stay alone by myself in my own home. And years before I could even turn the lights out to sleep. When I heard this monster was applying for a pardon, it hit me so hard. All of the fear, the worry came rushing back. I had panic attacks. I had severe anxiety, which I had to get medication for. I don't sleep. I have a fear that if this monster is released, he will find me and carry out his threat to kill me, as he told me over and over, no matter how long it took, he would kill me and my precious family. I would have no peace, or I would never feel safe again. I pray to God and I beg you to keep this monster out of my life and out of my family's life and keep him in prison where he belongs. Thank you. My name is Ginger and I'm Laura's youngest sister. And we want to thank you for the chance to speak to you directly because this crime was a tragic event that changed our sister's life forever. The pain, the fear, and the lasting trauma are things that she lives with every single day. And we want you to understand that this has, what it has done to her and to our family, not just through words on paper, that our letters that we submitted for you to review today. But we wanted you to hear from us, her sisters, the two of us who were in the aftermath, who love her deeply and have stood by her side through all of this. So we heard the person that we refer to as a monster because we do think that he's evil. But what we heard him say earlier was that he's not the person that he was, that he's now following guidelines and he's living by the rules. But we feel that a productive member of society doesn't rape someone. A productive member of society doesn't watch another man take the blame for a crime that he committed. You don't get to take those actions and then call yourself rehabilitated because you followed the rules or because you're presenting yourself in a different light to us for the day. After he committed the horrific crime that he did to our sister, he ran from the law enforcement and he hid in the woods, sparking a 7-day manhunt. I cannot put into words the fear that our sister and that our family endured for a week while they were on a manhunt for him. And all because he chose to run rather than face the fact that what he had done, him being a coward, in there, as Mr. Burkett said, he allowed an innocent man to serve 26 years in prison for the crime that he committed. He raped another woman 9 months before he raped our sister. He also had a reported escape attempt at the courthouse in Sabine Parish during the trial. He simply walked out of the courtroom and it is reported as an escape. So him attending classes or volunteering, that doesn't change what happened to our sister and what she's had to live with. That's moments that show someone's character. And volunteering later in a place, prison doesn't say to us that he was performed. He was hiding in her apartment, in her bedroom, in her closet. When she arrived into the apartment, it was dark, and when she saw him, she tried to run from him, and he attacked her, and he brutally raped her sister. And he held a butcher knife to her throat the entire time. And not only that, but he threatened if she ever said a word that he would kill her and he would kill us, and he would kill her family. Releasing him would tell our sister that her pain doesn't matter and that her safety is negotiable, and that the man who raped her and terrorized her has more right to freedom than she does to peace. A 12-member jury heard the evidence, and the sentence that they handed down was not handed down lightly. It was justice, it was accountability, and it should stand. It's the reason that all 3 of us girls sleep with a loaded pistol beside our bed every night. He is the reason that we check the locks on our doors every night, 3 to 4 times before we go to sleep in our own homes. Please deny parole and keep him where he belongs. I urge you to consider that he doesn't deserve a second chance. Our sister didn't get a second chance. He doesn't deserve one either. Please don't let our beautiful sister, who has endured so much, suffer again because of a system that lets a 2-time rapist walk free. My name is Pam, and I'm the older sister. First, I want to thank you for giving us a chance to speak. This didn't just change my sister's life, it took so much from her, and I watched her live with fear and pain that no one should have to ever endure. As an older sister, I've seen the toll it's taken on her day after day, and worked too hard. The fear and the trauma and weight of what it's done to her is something she never deserved. What my sister was forced to endure, and because of the tears and anguish, the weight that brought upon our mother, when this horrific crime happened, it broke her heart in a way no words can truly explain. As a mother, watching her child suffer was unbearable. She was filled with sorrow, fear, and helplessness that no parent should ever have to feel. This trauma didn't just affect one person, it changed all of us. And while our mother couldn't be here physically today, we speak with her full support and strength that she raised us to have. She stands with us in the request to please deny parole. Still today, when we come home, now we check all of our closets. And just recently, I was with my sister when she received a phone call from the victim's advocate to make her aware that this rapist was applying for clemency. I was there with her, and I saw firsthand what the PTSD that she suffered with done to her. As a sister, I'm begging you, please deny this request with parole. The thought of him being released fills us all with fear. My sister is still trying to rebuild her life and live with what was done to her. The idea that he could walk away is terrifying, and none of us, especially her, will ever feel safe if he's given this chance. This is a life sentence for my sister, and it should continue to be a life sentence for him. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. Mr. McNeal, your case was assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions?
Okay, Mr. McNeal, I'm gonna ask a question everybody wants to know. Do you admit to the first rape? 9
Yes,
months
sir.
prior to this one?
Yes, sir. You said the one that I'm here for Miss Blackwell?
Right, and the one that happened prior to that Mr. Johnson was serving time for?
No, sir.
Okay, so you saying you didn't commit that?
No, sir. They were saying that when the detectives came and seen me, they were saying that you not being charged with nothing. They want to know why my dead. They were found out at the scene at that time. But I'm saying, but I think the victim that he was referring to on that got on national TV and said that I was not the one did that to her. Like she said, she know who did that, and she said I was not the one did that. He said my they was found at the scene.
Let's back to the original charge then. Okay, you wasn't convicted of that one. Okay, what did you learn in sex offender treatment?
I learned that it's that you got to know the signs that when you certain signs that you get not to violate, and it got certain signs that it teaches you in sex offender, not the real offend and stuff like that.
Okay. I see that in 1984 you were arrested for a first-degree murder. They didn't prosecute you on it, but what was that about?
First degree murder?
But it says on 5 New Orleans District Attorney's Office, it's 1984, they charged you with first-degree murder.
No, sir, that's incorrect.
Okay. Okay. All right, yeah, it's a very, very heinous offense. I have no further questions.
Any other questions? All right, I don't see any other questions, Mr. McNeal, so we'll begin the vote with Mr. Freeman.
First off, I want to thank everybody that here spoke today. I know it was very traumatic. My vote today is to deny heinous nature offense, and I feel it is a serial rape.
Mr. Tillis,
I concur with Mr. Freeman.
is a statement.
I concur with Mr. Freeman and of course victim opposition, law enforcement opposition.
Yes.
Mr. Fragan,
I concur also. It's a horrible crime and to be waiting in a closet. I can't imagine. That would be a terrible thing. And on behalf of all the kids that worry about the boogeyman being in the closet, You know, I think somebody like this needs to stay in jail. And so my vote's to deny.
So, Mr. McNeal, you received 4 votes to deny your application today. So your application for clemency has been denied.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to see Calvin Willis, a very good friend of mine. He's part responsible for me getting in touch with the Innocent Project and being where I'm at today. I haven't seen Calvin since around 92
Where was that?
in Angola.
So are you excited to see him?
Oh yes, indeed I am, and I'm like, that's my partner. It's my lifetime friend. He like family too.
All right. Oh, good, man. Good. Take care of yourself, baby. How you doing? All right, how you doing?
Calvin, she said they're gonna bring you to Shreveport Friday and release you no later than Monday because you gotta be in New Orleans to speak at a press conference on Tuesday. Okay, that's right. And it still wasn't, I couldn't believe it. And then, because, after filing, and it was constantly denying everything, I was like, okay, all right, I go again, something else gonna come up. You know what I'm saying? They took the shackles off my feet, and then they took the shackles off my hand, and looked like they just rose up like that. And as I was saying to myself, I said, boy, this feel good. I know the feeling, Bob. Man, I know the feeling. Rick.
If you want to see the rest of that clip, I'll put a link to it in the description. The man on the left with the sunglasses was Ricky Johnson. On the right, Calvin Willis, who also was serving time in Angola for a crime that he did not commit. Now, this entire hearing, how dramatic, how remarkable. We hear from the victim, and she stands up. I know that the sound quality wasn't great. I hope you could read it with the subtitles. But she starts off by saying, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. I love that. And you have the actual district attorney that gets up and he makes a statement. And I have to appreciate that. Now, I mean, I don't know how you sleep with yourself when you send an innocent man to prison for all these years, but I think he should get some credit. He should get credit for showing back up and also allowing the DNA testing to happen and whatnot. I guess I don't know enough about this and how it works in these specifics, but I think far too often we see DAs that they won't show up to do this. So I think we have to give him credit for that. Something that did stick in my mind though was again how he said I never prosecuted him for the second essay. He said there were witness problems. I just question that. Maybe he thought he never had to prosecute him. You have DNA. Well, if you exonerate one man with DNA, then yeah, maybe go to court and prosecute it. Now maybe the victim said, I just don't want to. I can't. Don't put me through this. And that's why he chose not to. He says the guy's in prison for life anyways, so who cares? All right. So again, maybe I'm missing information. I can't go too crazy on that. But this does open up just a crazy can of worms. And for those of you who are wondering how much money in reparations he got for being locked up for 25 years in Angola for a crime that he didn't commit, all he got was $150,000, which is just mind-blowing. $150,000. How is that even possible? I mean, he was wrongfully convicted, and it was in a lineup. It was through a lineup, which is just goes to show how lineups are so. You would think that I just can't imagine. We can go through information on the case. It is nice. This guy had not a single person there in support of him. And I think that's enough. That's all that you need to know. It's it's got to be something else. I wonder what your reputation is in the yard of Angola when everyone finds out that you were holding out. Now he's still to today. Oh, I was innocent. It was in the news. She picked someone else. No. Oh my gosh. This one hit. This is great. You know, we hear about the Innocence Project, but now to see it tied right in. And of course, thank you, Lady Holly, for catching this case, putting it in a spreadsheet, pulling the research. I love to know. You can just to give an example. Lady Holly says, "Man, to cover this case," and then she puts together this document, which basically makes it so easy. You go through the information. She has the highlights of it right here, the summaries, and then all the links associated with the case. And then when our fact of the day. Let's start with our fact of the day, and then we'll go through the information. The United States is known for being supersized, and it also has the longest land border in the world, stretching for over 8,850 kilometers. The U.S. shares the border with its northern neighbor, Canada. I had no idea. I mean, for some reason, I'm not good at this stuff, geography, but I would guess like more. I think my first guess would be Russia, right? There you go. It's the United States. So, okay. All right. So, here it is. Man wrongly imprisoned for 26 years gains his freedom. This was written in 2008. Ricky Johnson, who has been incarcerated for nearly 26 years for an essay he did not commit, was released Monday based on DNA results proving his innocence, according to the Innocence Project, which represents him. Johnson, who was 26 when he was arrested for the crime, is scheduled to speak at a press conference in Baton Rouge this week with the family of Archie Williams, who has been fighting 13 years for DNA testing that could prove his innocence. And I hate this stuff. The idea that you have to fight all these years when you're saying there's DNA to prove I'm innocent, why does it take so long? Like, this stuff is what pisses me off, which is again why I went into, like, before I could just throw all the credit to the DA, I'm just skeptical, but okay. Ricky Johnson lost more than a quarter of a century, nearly his entire adult life, to wrongful conviction. He had 3 young children when he was arrested, and the 4th was born shortly after he was incarcerated. All of his children are now adults. He has grandchildren he's never met, said Vanessa Potkin at the Innocence Project's attorney representing Johnson. Ricky Johnson's long nightmare will be in vain if we don't learn from it and make sure that people in Louisiana have access to DNA testing that can prove their innocence. Johnson was arrested in 1982 for essay of a woman in July in 1982 in Manny. The victim said a man broke into her room at 1 a.m. and stayed for several hours, during which he essayed her. She later identified Johnson in the photo array that included an old photo of Johnson and just 2 other photos. Oh, great. So 3 photos. Good job. Freaking shoddy work. 1982. Unbelievable. Johnson was convicted of the essay in January 1983 and sentenced to life without parole. He has been at Louisiana Angola Farm Prison ever since. In June 2007, the Innocence Project, which is affiliated with Cardozo School of Law, asked Sabine Parish District Attorney Don Burkett to agree to DNA testing to collect after they say within days. Burkett agreed. Okay, so here we go. So the DA should get a lot of credit. He did not fight this. It says within days he agreed. You know, it's shame on me for coming to conclusions. It really is. All right. The DNA profile did not match Johnson, and late last week, state officials entered DNA profile into the database. So it seems it happened really quick. I mean, as soon as the Innocence Project got involved, they got results. The DNA profile did not match Johnson, and late last week, state officials entered a DNA profile in a database of convicted offenders, yielding a match to John Cornell McNeal, who was already in prison for essay in the same apartment complex just 9 months after the essay for which Johnson was wrongfully convicted. And I do wonder what Mr. Freeman was bringing up with the first-degree murder. I wonder if there was something else that because I don't have access to that. After McNeal was convicted of the April 1983 essay, he was sentenced to life without parole, has been serving in Angola within Johnson. 2 men were acquaintances for the past 2 decades. If police and prosecutors had not focused on Ricky Johnson so early on in the investigation, and if proper eyewitness identification procedure had been used instead of deeply flawed photo lineup, the real perpetrator might have been brought to justice sooner and may not have been free to essay the woman in the same apartment complex. Yeah. Podkin said, anyone who doubts that our criminal justice system is stronger when we take steps to prevent wrongful convictions should take a close look at Ricky Johnson's case. At the suggestion of Calvin Willis, an Innocence Project client who served more than 21 years at Angola before DNA testing exonerated him in 2003, Johnson wrote to the Innocence Project seeking assistance. He wrote that he wanted to help getting the DNA that will give my life back. And I said, I am not the man that did this. I want this. I want to go home. In 2005, Johnson's daughter, Lakeisha Butts, wrote to the Innocence Project, my father, Ricky Johnson, was wrongfully charged and sentenced to life, 21 years, and has now passed. 21 years have now passed. My dad has been stripped from his children and his family and charged he is not guilty of. And the real perpetrator of the heinous act was granted the advantage of walking free and having the opportunity to be surrounded with his family. We, the children of Ricky Johnson, need your assistance in exonerating our father. The Innocence Project took the case in 2006. So it was, okay, in 2005 she wrote. 2006 they took the case, quickly located the evidence. Once Burkett agreed to DNA testing, a state judge granted a motion to test the evidence at Relegating, a private lab based in New Orleans. Why do you need a judge to agree to take? Why do you need a judge to grant that? Basic DNA testing yielded only a partial profile. More sophisticated testing known, blah, 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 provided a full profile. In late December, Johnson's DNA profile was compared with the profile of the vaginal swab, and he was excluded last week. State officials matched the profile to McNeal, whose DNA profile in the state's database of convicted felons. The Innocence Project has commended Burkett for quickly agreeing to conduct DNA testing in this case. So if they have to commend them, that means, oftentimes it's not agreed to. I've seen documentaries where they have DAs refusing to allow it, and it's shame on them. While Louisiana passed a state law allowing access to post-conviction DNA testing in 2001, East Baton Rouge District Attorney Doug Moreau has fought DNA testing for years in 2 Innocent Project cases. There you go. As I was saying, why? Why would you fight it? It's insane. It's sick. Just say, sure. If you got nothing to hide, why would you fight it? Really, there's no answer. There's none. You cannot give me a single answer. It's impossible. In Arch Williams' case, Moreau had refused to conduct DNA testing for 13 years. The state appeals court finally ordered DNA testing in the case in August, but Moreau has appealed the state Supreme Court. Why? See, here it is. Look at this. This guy's even appealing. Don't take the DNA. Don't prove he's innocent. Just last week, the state Supreme Court rejected his effort to continue blocking DNA testing for Kenneth Reed, who initially requested testing 2 years ago. In the 2 unrelated cases, Williams and Reed were convicted of essaying a woman who did not know their attacker, making them the most straightforward types of cases for DNA proving guilt or innocence. More than anything else, Ricky Johnson owes his freedom to the fact that he is in Sabine Parish with a cooperative district attorney who recognizes his legal and moral obligation to conduct DNA testing. If he had been in East Baton Rouge, Ricky Johnson would likely still be in Angola, still fighting DNA testing that would prove his innocence, the Innocence Project said. This is madness. Do you hear that? It's literally down to the one parish. A DA is saying you can't DNA test, and when a judge orders it, he even appeals. Why? You guys, and it's funny because it's weird. I felt like when I'm reading this, I'm like saying, look, we should applaud the DA for allowing. And even while I was saying that, I was like doubting myself. I'm like, no, I know I've seen this. I've read it somewhere. I've seen in documentaries where DAs refuse it. And right down in the line, it's talking about in another parish how a DA refuses it. Because it doesn't make sense. I had to talk myself into believing what I was saying because it didn't make any sense. But that's sick stuff. There's so much wrong with the justice system. So much. We see it every day, and it's on all sides of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. At least we have a platform here to call it out, show really what was this is evil and good and evil, the boogeyman, as Mr. Prater said it, survivors standing up standing up for their rights. I mean, you have it all. You have it all in this case. And thank you, Lady Holly, for making sure that we covered it. And with that, I'll let you go.
I don't consider myself a victim. I'm a survivor. I came home one night, found this monster hiding in my closet. I never imagined anything this horrific would happen to me. This monster raped me and held a knife to my throat the whole time and told me if I made a sound, he would kill me. What this monster did to me left an emotional and physical pain that I'm still suffering with today. This horrific act traumatizes you. You live with it for the rest of your life.